Welcome to the Daily Edge. Marc Nudelberg, Durèe Ross. I cannot wait to get into her entrepreneurial journey. Let's find our edge. Let's find our edge. That starts with our affirmation. Every word I choose has power. With authenticity and strategy, I own the narrative and create impact. Is there a better affirmation for you, Durèe?
It's perfection.
Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's our pleasure. You have been in PR for, I'm not going to say how long, because I don't know that you...
Oh, no, it's all good.
Okay, since 1999, right?
I started my company in 99, but I started working in PR at 19.
Wow.
I just turned 50.
So you started, because you're a Kane, right?
Kane.
We're going to keep it civil.
Sorry.
We're going to keep it civil in here, because I don't know when this is going to air, but it will be after
we'll know the results.
We will know the results. Hopefully the Knowles pull it out. So you started when you were in school at Miami?
Yes.
Why?
I needed a part-time job, and originally I was going to school for broadcast journalism and thought I wanted to be in front of the camera.
Okay.
And then I was like, I don't know, I'm a Miami girl. I don't know that I want to move to Idaho and report in the snow. So I was kind of rethinking that. And then it was in the School of Communication, and there was an old-fashioned billboard where people put papers of part-time jobs that were available. And it was a part-time in PR. I didn't even know what PR was, public relations, had no idea. My mom still thinks I do advertising, and this is decades later. She still doesn't know. But that's how I started. It was a part-time job. I needed to work. It was a part-time hourly job. And I was like, what is this PR? And then I was like, wait, people pitch these stories? They're behind what I'm reading, the headlines. And obviously social media wasn't a thing at that point. But I would stand at a fax machine faxing press releases. Okay? That's how I started.
I have an appreciation for a fax machine.
Okay.
Because when I got started in college football, kids were still faxing their NILs in, which is not NILs, NLIs, national letters of intent.
Sure.
Not name, image, and likeness, right? They were faxing it in still. So on signing day, it was a huge deal. Nobody else better be sending anything to the office. And so now nobody knows what a fax machine is anymore.
The busy signal could kill you if you stand there. Oh my gosh.
So you got started as an internship or as a part-time job while you were in school. And you fell in love with it?
And then I fell in love with it, and then I was like, this is what I want to do. And fortunately, because I was in the School of Communication, they let me substitute a bunch of classes. So I didn't need video editing, which now kids grow up knowing how to edit videos, right? But back then you had to take a class. Or you just have AI
do it for you at this point.
Yeah, that's true. And so they let me substitute a number of classes that were relevant but made sense for what I was going to do. So it really was, was awesome with me. The School of Communication was great, and they let me substitute and make it make sense. So I wasn't just getting an empty degree, so that I was able to, but obviously with PR, it was on the ball experience, shall we say. It was definitely on the job experience that really made it make sense and made it relevant that you can't learn in a textbook.
And did you then stay with that agency post-grad, or what was the transition?
Sure. So I was with them. I was with one agency. I mean, I still talk to everybody, and they're still I was the intern, but they're my friends. And so we refer business now. It's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
I'm really blessed to have that. It's funny, I spoke to a few of them on Friday, actually, as I was working on something. I needed to text a few of them. And this is decades later, right? This is a long, long time later. So I stayed with that. I was with that one agency, and then I switched to a bigger agency, which ended up becoming acquired and becoming, and it is a very, very large international agency. And I worked with them for a few years, all through. I mean, I had an office. I was an intern. I was pitching national things around the country.
Wow.
I mean, it was one of those okay, you down for it? We'll give it to you. It's I love that. I love that perspective. I love anybody who comes in and they're like, I want it, give it to me. And so I was able to do a lot of that. I had my office. I was with them for quite a few years throughout the rest of my college career. And I was actually working full-time during college, which was kind of crazy. And then had a brief stint at a nonprofit and decided, as much as I love nonprofits, and it's a huge part of giving back, that's where my love, I think, comes from it, that I was better not in-house. And so I left there, and then all of those people that I worked with started calling me. And they were like, can you help with this? Can you help with that? And so here I am. I'm living at home. I'm 24 years old. I'm living with my mom and my sister after college. I'm built this little business in my bedroom on dial-up, AOL. Okay. And it just started, and I didn't have a business plan or anything like that. It just kind of happened. And I couldn't have dreamt this at all. It wasn't like in today's world, you work on a business, it's very different. And it just kind of, and people that I worked with prior, they all started calling me from the two different agencies, and then just people I had come across, and they're like, can you help with this? Can you help with that? And it just blossomed. I have a funny story to tell you that's going to connect it all together. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
So one of the accounts I worked on was Burger King, and they had a program called Burger King Scholars. And we would work, and they would award scholarships to football players, college players around the U.S.
Okay.
And I got different markets that I had to work on. Yep. And so I'll just say that the first one I worked on, the winner's last name was Manning.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. Eli or Peyton?
Peyton.
Wow.
I'm that old. It was Peyton.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we had a bunch of them, but he was the ultimate winner. And so I did a lot of work with Burger King. And when I started, we also did crisis work, and we had a pager. So if there was a crisis, you'd have a 3-ring binder. And if it was a foodborne illness, you went to one tab. If it was a, shooting, whatever it was. And it was a pager. And that was when things were, you'd have a few hours or even a day before the media showed up. Now it's, breaking on, 1-star reviews on Facebook or whatever. And then that's sometimes how we find out about it. But
I have so many questions that I'm going to have to write them down because I don't want to lose them. But the first one that really just jumps out at me is you had this work ethic.
Yeah.
You went into school, you immediately found a part-time job. That part-time job became a full-time job, and you balanced working and building your career while being in school. Where'd that work ethic come from?
I just think it's ingrained. I mean, I remember going to my mom when I was 14. I lived on Miami Beach, graduated from Beach High. And I remember going to my mom saying, it's time I get a job. And back then at 14, you could, you was fine, whatever. And my
go
parents,
to Publix and buy groceries.
Well, okay, so you don't even know this. Guess what's coming? Okay, so you laid the groundwork beautifully. Okay, so I go to my mom and I say, I'd like a job. I need a job. And she said, okay, well, we're friends with the name of the family was the Thal brothers, and they owned the world famous Epicure Gourmet Market in Miami Beach.
Sure.
So my first job was a bag girl at Epicure in Miami Beach.
That's amazing.
So you didn't even know that.
You had to ride your bike over there and you were bagging?
No, the best was, so my grandparents lived on the beach, which is why I ended up on the beach, and they would go shopping there, and I would be their bag girl. And so they were very large tippers, because $20 that many years ago was like, I don't know, the equivalent of like $100 maybe now. They were great tippers, and that was kind of how I started. And then I just always worked. I worked throughout, I had multiple jobs throughout high school, and I mean, everything from ophthalmology practices to Scott Rakel Youth Center as a coach, counselor. I mean, I just always worked.
And that was just born in you? Like that wasn't, you didn't see it from a parent, you didn't see it from a sibling, it wasn't something that you followed from somebody else?
It was just innate. And it's interesting when you see it. I have children now, and when you see it in your own children, it's really cool. It's a little scary sometimes, but cool.
You think it's a gene? You think it's genetic?
I think some of it is genetic, and feeling productive. I think that part of it is, feeling productive. But you also want your own money, right? And you want your own freedom, and you want to be able to do what you want. Not that my parents never said like, "Oh, go earn your own money." It wasn't like that. I mean, I was 14, I was still very young.
You had an understanding that if you went and worked for it, it would be yours, and that was a motivation of yours.
Yeah. I've always just subscribed to, the harder you work, the more you make, control your own destiny. I mean, I think that's just part of...
You're preaching right now. Like, oh, let's go.
That's just how it's always been. And I've just felt you control your own destiny. And I think you make your own luck.
Yeah.
And you control your own destiny. I believed it when I was very young, and I believe it now. And the full circle was really when I was like not sure what I was doing, and then all these people started calling me, and it was because of my work ethic. It was because they saw, it's under promise and over deliver is a tagline of ours, and it's just that's what you do. And I think that those attributes are even more relevant and more important in today's world than they were back then, because there's, with the advent of socials and things looking like they're not, and people, saying they're going to do things and they don't. I think that is still, it's something that I instilled in my children. I see it in them. I'm very proud.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important in the workforce today.
Because, and I'm sure, like, when you started your business, there were so many other female entrepreneurs, and that was just such a widely
Oh my God, I have a great story. Are you ready for this story? You're going to love this story.
Yep.
People are going to think we rehearsed this. We didn't. When I started, again, I was 24, and I was like, okay, I'm 24. I had been in PR since I was 19, so I did have a lot of experience, but I was 24, and it was a long time ago. It was 25 years ago. So I was creating my first business card and going through the branding. And I like the color pink. I'm not ashamed to say it. And I feel, men in pink looks fabulous too.
Yeah.
Anybody in
It's a great
pink.
color.
And I was afraid of what my corporate colors were going to be. So I picked blue and green because at 24 years old, young female, who was going to take me seriously? And it was very corporate colors that were safe because... Okay, I was a little nervous, right?
Legally Blonde hadn't been shot yet either, right?
So it's hard. It had not. And then once I was much further in my career and I was rebranding, I was like, if somebody can't appreciate what branding is, what a company's kind of brand philosophy is, then they're probably not the client for me. And then I embraced it and was like, you don't have to wear pink.
Yeah.
You don't have to love it, but you can at least appreciate that is our branding, our philosophy, our merchant, our merch, our promo. Like, that's just kind of what it's about.
Which is an unbelievable business lesson that I think only really gets taught when you own a business or when you're in business, right? Like my dad, I was raised on the idea that not everybody's a fit for you in business, and that's okay, right? The best business is done with people that are a fit for you. You learn that, and I really want to kind of talk about. You said you didn't have a business plan, right? Like people started asking you to do work, so you were doing the work, and I'm sure you were sort of like, I should probably get paid for this too, right? Yeah. And so how did you develop, because this was 1999, is that right?
Yes.
So
I incorporated in December of 99 and was before I incorporated, my accountant was like, figure out if you're going to do this before you incorporate. So it was a few months before, but yes, I was
26 years ago that this happened. Right? And you didn't have a business plan for it. So how did you, and you went to communication school. I know they didn't teach you how to run a business.
They wouldn't allow me to get a second major. I wanted to in business. And at that time, they wouldn't allow it.
So how did you figure out the basic components of what you needed to charge and how you were going to, place yourself in the market and how you were going to market yourself and all of the things that you need to be able to do to run the business successfully? How did you learn that?
I just, I guess a little bit of fake it till you make it, but I really wasn't faking it because I had done the business and I knew what I felt and it was in my bones and I knew how to...
Followed your gut.
And I always, listen, I think PR on some level is sales. And so whether I was selling Haagen-Dazs at the Miami Beach Convention Center when I wasn't working at the Epicure, but I was selling. And I didn't realize how much of PR was selling. And you're selling yourself. You're selling what you do. You're selling being the person that you are and being a person of your word. And I think that stuff is what translates into people calling into, hey, I know you're a good worker. Hey, I know, I need some help.
Yeah.
I didn't work for free, so I always charged. Did I charge what I should have? Probably not. I didn't know better. And I was on dial-up. And I don't know, it was like a crazy time.
Right.
But I loved the people that I worked with. And I had really great experience there. And, I still do business with them today, many of them. Some I've even employed after, so the roles kind of reversed. And I was able to employ them.
So you're hitting on something that I got to ask you. Is there anything more important to a business than relationships?
No, because it's internal relationships and external.
Right.
And probably the perception of you, right? I think your relationships, that also kind of goes to how people perceive you. Yeah. But you said it earlier in the affirmation, authenticity.
Right.
It's a big word for me. And I think, and it's something that even with our clients, we're not going to make up a story. It has to be authentic. It has to feel right to the brand, to the person, to the CEO. And we're not going to make something up to have it sound good. It really needs to be authentic. And when we're pitching and we're coming up with strategy, it has to be authentic to the brand and it can't be weird. So I think all of that kind of goes together, certainly being authentic, being a person of your word. And I think relationships are critical. And
like your career arc is wild because you started a business basically at the boom of the internet, right? AOL dial-up. Like that was, it was like technology that people had never seen before that was rapidly changing the world. Fast forward 26 years later, we're having the same conversation about AI. Yep. So like for you, starting your career in PR with traditional, right? Billboards and magazines
faxing
and radio and
TV
faxing and seeing the technological shift that's happened. What's that been like and how do you embrace technology?
So I love change, which is kind of unique, and I love being ahead of the curve. So that's a good, I like to be challenged. And so if I was still doing traditional PR and standing at a fax machine, I'd be in trouble. I wouldn't have a business, right? So it's always what's next. It was social media, that was, and it still is obviously huge, but that was kind of like the next, was certainly social media, working with influencers. It's all about content. So there's a lot of content generation. And so while I started in traditional PR, we always morphed and we always were like, what's next? What's next? And I like that challenge. And so I feel like even with AI, what's next with AI? What is this, all about? And so it's very natural to me to keep pushing the boundaries and have it and what is coming next and really pushing. And I love to talk. I mean, I'll even ask my kids, like, what do you listen to or where are you getting your content from? And we have these great DMs that go back and forth between us. Yeah. And so sometimes maybe they get, I don't want to say frustrated, but they're like, how do you know that? Like, it's like, oh, did you I said to my daughter yesterday, she came home, she goes to University of Miami now, and she came home yesterday to see me and she was studying and I said, oh, are you locked in? And she's like, what? And I was like, she goes, oh, you mean, and I said, yeah, like that's, and she's like, yeah.
That's amazing.
So she didn't get that her mom, even though she's so, I try to be the cool mom, but I don't want to be that cool mom that says they're the cool mom. So, but I think there's a lot of that. A lot of what we do also is newsjacking and what's in the news and how do we tie into things. And so you have to be part of pop culture.
Explain that to people for a minute, because I think that's probably something that didn't really exist when you started your career in PR, right? Like you had to, you knew the story you were trying to get, you pitched the story, and it was like this long timeline to actually get it done. Whereas now you're newsjacking. So what does that mean?
So it's really taking things that are relevant and current in the news. It doesn't always have to be a pop culture thing. It can be something like a lawsuit that we're tapping into and speaking about. It could be world activity, something going on in the world. It could be an influencer situation, and we tap into that. Sometimes it's pop culture and fun. Other times it's to really talk about thought leadership, so that person can insert their comment or their perspective on something. It could be a lawyer speaking about a case that's not theirs, but what are the implications to that for the average person? Big, wide variety of topics, inserting people to talk about what they do for a living and provide their expert, advice, but it's tied to something timely.
Did that happen because of social media? Did newsjacking happen because of social media?
I think it kind of there's always been thought leadership, but
Right.
it was at a much slower, longer runway
Right.
than it is now. I think the push for content is really what's made that, the rush to get stories out. Like, we'll even now with a reporter, they'll say, I just need to get the story up. And then when your client can provide the quote or the insight or whatever it is, I can update the story. So that's very
Wow.
different than it used to be. It's a
Wow,
mad
right.
rush to get the story live.
Because you want to be first. You want to have the clicks
media.
and you want to have the...
Sometimes it's clickbait, but yes, and sometimes it's just getting it up, and then they'll obviously that's for online, right? And then oftentimes that online story will be in print with it once it's fully updated, because print deadlines are, it's not instantaneous like it is online.
So I'm going to ask you a hard-hitting question as like our last question, because you hit on something. You're like, sometimes it's kind of clickbait. Like, I watched a reel this morning where, like, they were like, social media is the end of the world, and like it's everything that's bad, and it's preaching hate, and it's spreading hate and misinformation. So is social media good or bad?
Depends. It depends on how it's being
How
used.
you use it, right?
It depends
it's
on
just
how
a tool.
It's the tool, and it's also, I'm going to call out my mom for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So she sends me these videos and she's like, look at this. And I'm like, Mom, it's all AI. This is not real. She's like, how do they know this? How do you know this?
Right.
And she's believing everything.
Right.
So, like
Scary
the
and
craziest
there's a lot of
things.
people out there that are-
I can tell it's AI for the most part, but
Right.
it is going to get to a point where we can't tell.
Right.
It's coming quickly.
Right.
And there are some that I'm like, whatever, but I'm a professional
Yep.
in kind of the space, right? So I see things differently, but that is, to me, that's bad. That's
Yeah.
bad usage. On the flip side, there's a lot of great usage and helping nonprofits and getting the word out. And goodness gracious, if a child goes missing and getting the word out, that's a terrible situation, but being able to use it, to harness it, to get the word out and for awareness. But like anything, it's how you use it.
How you use it, right? And so and my last question, actual question. Do you struggle with that as being a part of your business, right? Like, part of success for you is getting awareness, getting eyeballs. And if part of what gets eyeballs is clickbaity, kind of edgy, do you struggle with some of that as a tactic in your business? And do you steer away from it, or how do you manage that?
So a lot of what I do is crisis. So I am very careful. We've navigated literally hundreds and hundreds of situations over the years. And just when you think you've seen it all, something else comes along and you're like, now I've seen it all.
Right.
There's the cancel culture is real.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be very careful, certainly as a CEO or as an employee somewhere. I think you have to be careful about what you say. And, we work with employment lawyers. So there's a lot of that comes into thinking about things like that. And the other thing about social media is people say things behind a computer screen that they would never say in front of somebody's face, or if you were having a real conversation. So I think that, it's like anything, we love what we do, but there are times when it's a crisis, when things are too hot. Like, sometimes it's okay not to comment. However, I will say, am I hitting all your points?
That was money. Oh, that was so good.
We did not rehearse. I didn't even know any questions that were coming, for the record. But I do think I think you have to be careful and mindful of what you're saying, and is this what you want to put out? And sometimes it is. And sometimes you want to be that person that, yes, I like to stir the pot, others not. And sometimes you've seen a lot of CEOs lose their position because of things that they've done. And is that what you want to happen? And so I think if we all just step back for a second and just thought about it, and there are many people who go, I've thought about it, and that is what I want to say, and I do want to go out with it.
And they're okay with the backlash.
And they're okay.
Right.
And I tell clients sometimes when they even want to make an announcement about something, we're at a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And if you go to the right, it means this, and if you go to the left, it could mean that. But we can't take it back. Once you can't put the words back in. Once it's out there, it's out there. And if you're good with the potential ramifications, and I will sometimes go through that, here's what this going left could mean, and here's what going right could mean, but we can't take it back. And so it's not my job to tell the client what to say.
It's just to help guide them
and explain both sides of, here are here's what could happen. We do clean up a lot of messes. I'm not gonna lie, but I would say the biggest thing, especially in today's world, is it's almost like guilt by association. So in today's mad world, to get the story out, to get the story live, sometimes lately there's a lot of mistakes being made. We don't have copy editors anymore.
Right.
It's a rush to get things out. Wrong people are identified as whatever.
Right.
I have a really, really crazy story that ties to sports this ties it all together about crisis. But I think, you really, we just want to be strategic in what we're, and be mindful about what we're saying and what we're doing. And I would encourage anybody, whether you have a PR firm or not, really think about, is this the sword you want to die on? Or is this where you want to go? And does this make sense? And think about it now and in the long term. And there's a lot of clients we work with, and they said, I want to own this.
Yeah.
I want to go out on this.
Yep.
I believe in this, and this is where I want to be. And it's like, okay, let's go on it. And, or even in that newsjacking, is this something you want to be associated with? And that sort of a thing. So I think it's really being mindful and thoughtful about what you're saying, because you can't take it back.
You dropped so many unbelievable nuggets on this episode.
Really?
Time flies. Yeah, really. I can't wait for you to listen to it and be like, wow, I crushed that.
I actually don't like to listen to myself, so I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
Thank you for joining the show.
You.
And we always leave with an edge, or we try to help people understand what that edge was. And I will tell you, from listening to this, I think the edge is understanding that sometimes the best thing to say is nothing. Right? You don't always have to engage, and sometimes your silence says more than what your words would say. So in a conversation where we're talking about controlling your narrative or building your story, sometimes silence is the best answer. Thank you very much, Durèe.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time. Find your edge with us.